this is where it's Super Bowl week. It's one of the most exciting weeks in sports that we have. It's the big game. There's going to be a stupid amount of people watching football on Sunday. And despite that, this is one of those times where I think media just gets a little too ahead of itself. Media is already, and you see this with the big companies, how they are handling their coverage of the Super Bowl, and they're basically leading you into, oh, it's not that exciting. Oh, this isn't that big of a game. Oh, it's, we are lacking star power. Listen. Last year, and I get it was Mahomes, and they were going for the three-peat, and that is special. But for a company like Fox Sports, ESPN, who had sent all these people out to do the Super Bowl, they had all these different shows. They had them out there live at the Super Bowl, recording all their shows, doing all this stuff. They flew Tom Brady out. Obviously, Fox had the Super Bowl. To go from that to, we're not sending anybody out. Everybody's going to do their shows from back home. And we're going to basically sit there and start day one. The Super Bowl's not that exciting. This is where media gets ahead of itself. Media, sports media, when you cover anything, sports is the easiest example. When you cover anything, you are not bigger than the product that you cover. I know you could have 1 million+ subscribers, you could have 1 million+ followers on Instagram, Twitter. You, as an individual show, media personality, reporter, whatever you are covering, you are not bigger than the actual thing that you cover. It just does not work. It's not real. So instead of what should be two major storylines, two being a common thing, we have second-year quarterback Drake May in a Super Bowl. A guy who is from what has looked like to this point one of the best quarterback draft classes that we've ever had potentially. In his second year, has made it all the way to a Super Bowl, has a chance to be he is already going to be the second youngest starter ever in the Super Bowl, only to Dan Marino, and has a chance to be the youngest guy ever supplanting Ben Roethlisberger to ever win a Super Bowl. So let's start there. Then you have another two. He is going against a second-year head coach, Mike Macdonald, which took a Seattle franchise, which you had the Legion of Boom, you had Russell Wilson, and then you had a bunch of, where are we? Pete Carroll eventually leaves. We see he's no longer who he used to be. Again, Russell Wilson, we saw the decline even before getting traded to Denver. All of the Legion of Boom was no longer there. And Seattle is one of those cities and one of those teams that it feels really easy to get lost in the wilderness. They're not a New York. They're not one of these huge supermarkets or iconic NFL franchises like a Green Bay. Even this year, as dominant as they were, you still didn't see people reporting or talking about Seattle in the same light that you saw in LA Rams or even the Chargers or an iconic franchise like the Steelers or the Packers. So we have a second-year head coach, defensive guru, going against a second-year premier quarterback. In what world, to the many media members at ESPN, FS1, the YouTubers, the podcast, in what world is this not a primetime Super Bowl matchup? In what world? The only world you can argue it is in the world of revisionist history where most media goes to live and die. Tom Brady's Super Bowl against the Rams would not be considered this all-time legendary event if he himself did not turn into Tom Brady. That was second-year starting quarterback going against the greatest show on turf, but nobody going into that game because the Patriots were double-digit underdogs. It was, the Rams are just going to smoke them, and it was all about building up Kurt Warner, but this felt like an achieving Patriots team. And we have the same thing here, and I'm not saying Drake May is going to turn into Tom Brady, but let's leave the door open for this. That there is a chance that New England somehow, after 5 years, a whole 5 years of being bad post Tom Brady, Bless you. Sorry, New England, apparently I can't talk about you being bad. I start sneezing. A whole 5 years now has their heir apparent. Teams like the Jets, the Dolphins, my Broncos, they've been looking for who's the next Elway, who's the next Marino, who's the next Joe Namath. Jets are still looking. The Patriots, after 5 years, seem to have their quarterback, their head coach, and Seattle, again, transitioning out of Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, Hall of Fame head coach, Hall of Fame quarterback. The Legion of Boom was a few years before that, but this all-time iconic defense. And now they're back in the Super Bowl with a great defense, a quarterback who has had a wonderful all-time redemption story, not just in the NFL, but in sports, and a brilliant young defensive coach. In what world is this not an exciting Super Bowl? In what world do we live in where media members feel like, oh, I can downplay this? This isn't, we've heard it all year. And this is what I need people to understand. We've heard it all year. There's no Mahomes. There's no Lamar. There's no Joe Burrow. Those teams are struggling. Is the NFL, this is just a weird year for the NFL. No, it's not. It's a time of transition, which you see in every major sport. And I'm not saying those guys will never win. I'm not saying those guys will never be back in the playoffs. I'm not saying those guys will never not be obviously extremely relevant members of the NFL and what they're able to produce. But the same way when you had the end of Peyton Manning and you had the Broncos were dominant, you had the Patriots were dominant, you had the Steelers were dominant, you had these clear-cut teams that were like, okay, these are the best in the AFC. Peyton Manning retires, Denver goes into a free fall, Ben Roethlisberger gets old, Pittsburgh maintains this, oh, we finish about 500, but not a serious threat. Brady leaves the Patriots. That then opened the transition for Josh Allen coming of age, Mahomes coming of age, Josh Allen coming of age. This is simply a transition in sports. And again, that doesn't mean Mahomes is never going to, I'm not saying Mahomes is never going to make the playoffs again. I'm not saying Lamar is never going to make the playoffs again. I'm not saying they're not going to be competitive, potentially win a Super Bowl. What I'm saying is let's not downplay, again, second year head coach, second year quarterback in a year that has been about, okay, the old guard, the guys who have been dominating, there's new guys here who are joining in this conversation. There's new guys here who are planting their flag, making their claim of why they need to be considered an AFC, NFC power respectively. When you talk about the best teams in the AFC next year, you cannot ignore the New England Patriots. When you talk about the best teams in the NFC next year, you cannot ignore the Seattle Seahawks. This is a wonderful matchup by any metric. And that's coming from someone who is really upset that his favorite team, his quarterback, broke his ankle. And I thought truly a real chance to win the Super Bowl this year. And unfortunately, because of injury, we're not here. But that doesn't take away. Imagine how crazy I would sound if I came on here and said, well, it's not that exciting. And to all the easy schedule people, and I've been sick the last 2 weeks. I haven't had a really good chance to get this off. To the easy schedule people, you guys do know how math works, right? So 7 of the last 10 Super Bowl winners had a top 10 easy schedule. I've mentioned that first Super Bowl, Tom Brady versus the Rams. The 99 Rams had the easiest schedule of all time for a Super Bowl winner. And I believe I think it's the second easiest schedule of all time, easiest all time for a Super Bowl winner. The more games you win, the less games that people on your schedule win. You understand that, right? And that might sound dumb or that might sound like, oh, that's obvious. But this is a 2 seed and a 1 seed from their conference, respectively. The 1 and 2 seeds played in the AFC Championship game. And the Bears were one throw or one finish your route, depending on how you want to view it, from being 1 and 2 seed in the NFC. The teams that won games, the teams that were good this year, they deserved to make it as far as they did this year. They were just better this year. So I don't want to hear the easy schedule crap. I don't want to hear the, who have the Patriots beaten? Because at the end of the day, when we look back on this Super Bowl, to whoever wins it, we're not going to go, how many Super Bowl winners do you look back on and go, oh man, they just had such an easy schedule? I watched my team win a Super Bowl in 2015. And besides Gronk giving me a heart attack in the AFC Championship game because we couldn't cover, because the Broncos couldn't cover them, I don't remember deeply their playoff run. I don't know how, quote unquote, hard their schedule was that year. They won a ring. That's all that mattered. I've just seen, one of the cool things about doing this at night is I get to kind of see everything play out during the day. And I could not believe all of the stuff I was seeing today from ESPN, FS1, guys on YouTube, people downplaying the Patriots schedule, people downplaying what Seattle's done this year. Like, it's just all a bunch of crap, man. Good teams are good. These are two great teams in the Super Bowl. These are a million wonderful storylines. If you want to be one of those people that just don't like sports and want to complain or want to nag, fine, do you, but don't bring your negativity over to the rest of us. We're trying to watch a great game on.
I mean, if you want to be a part of one of the coolest, most unique communities, don't forget to like and subscribe.